Hey guys, it's Scarlett here. I hope you all are doing well today. So today I'm going to share with you all about the pagan holiday of Ostara. And if you are new to my channel, welcome. I post weekly videos about tarot, paganism, and magic. So if you are interested in those topics, do please take a quick moment to subscribe down below. So we have Ostara coming up, and I am really excited about this particular pagan holiday. And to me, it is very much, we are starting spring, and I am very excited by that. And this year, Ostara is falling on March 20th, and it's also known as the vernal or spring equinox. And one really interesting thing about Ostara this year is it's also going to be a full moon in Libra, and I happen to be a Libra, so I am really excited by that too. So I might even be combining like an SBAT full moon celebration with my Ostara celebration this year. So Ostara is something that is widely celebrated among Wiccans, though not all Wiccans do celebrate Ostara, and definitely not all pagans celebrate Ostara. So do keep that in mind. In general, if you are familiar with the Wiccan Wheel of the Year, it's basically defined by the Sabbats and the equinoxes and the points in between, which make up the 8 Wiccan holidays. And one of the interesting ways to kind of think about the Wiccan Wheel of the Year, and it can maybe help you remember the different holidays too, is you can think of the god and the goddess. So the goddess kind of, in this instance, being this eternal presence, but the god going through stages of birth all the way through life and death and rebirth. So at this time of year, through that metaphor, the god would be a youth coming into maturity. The following holiday of Beltane would be the union or the marriage between the god and the goddess, and then the god continues to age until he dies at Samhain in October and is reborn at Yule in December, starting that cycle over. So that's just one kind of interesting way you can conceptualize the Wheel of the Year. But in general, the Wheel of the Year is really about recognizing and appreciating the seasons and the change in nature around us. So taking time out of our day to reconnect with the changing of the seasons is kind of the core point of the Wiccan holidays. And this particular holiday, known as Ostara, it's connected with a few different ideas. So definitely it's connected to fertility. I mean, it is springtime. We are starting to see flowers and growth. And it's also tied to the concept of balance. And that's because it's one of the 2 equinoxes. So just like the autumnal equinox, which occurs in September, the vernal equinox, which is this March, that is a time when the hours of daylight equal the hours of night. So you have this balance in day and night. So likewise, those 2 holidays, those 2 points are associated with balance. And this holiday is also associated with ideas of renewal and new possibilities and hope, kind of tying into that fresh spring image that this holiday projects. So historically, many pagans celebrated festivals either on or near the spring equinox, and usually these festivals were associated with fertility. And one of the deities that was celebrated at this time of year was called Ostara, and that's spelled E-O-S-T-R-E. And Ostara was a Northern European goddess of fertility. So yes, I can probably guess what you're thinking. The name Ostar did eventually translate into Easter. So it went through several variations into Old English, into Modern English, and that is where we get the current name of the Christian holiday, Easter. So Easter and Ostara are very kind of intermixed in a way. And I do have a quote for you from the German philologist Jacob Grimm, who in 1882 stated, Ostar seems therefore to have been the divinity of the radiant dawn, of upspringing light, a spectacle that brings joy and blessing, whose meaning could be easily adapted by the resurrection day of the Christians' God. Bonfires were lit at Easter, and according to popular belief of long standing, the moment the sun rises on Easter Sunday morning, he gives 3 joyful leaps. He dances for joy. Water drawn on the Easter morning is, like that at Christmas, holy and healing. Here also heathen notions seem to have grafted themselves on great Christian festivals. So yes, I mean, he is probably right here. I mean, pagan holidays and Christian holidays do have quite a bit of overlap, and that's something I went over recently in my origin of Valentine's Day when I talked about Lupercalia, and then it's also, I have a video about Yule and its connection with Christmas, and of course Halloween and Samhain. So basically kind of pagan and Christian holidays in general do have a lot of overlap. And most of the traditions and the customs that are associated with Christian holidays do have pagan origins. One other quick note on that quote. So Grimm stated about Ostar being known as like a goddess of dawn or the rising sun. And that is definitely true according to some versions of Germanic and Norse pagan cultures, though Ostar also is associated with fertility too. So you kind of have a combo of her being associated with the rising sun or the dawn, goddess of the dawn, but then also you have her kind of more associated with fertility. So there are a lot of different kind of ways to interpret this particular goddess. And one other note, there are some other goddesses that can be celebrated at this time of year. One of them is Venus or Aphrodite, and that is because bunnies and hares were associated with fertility, and they are a companion animal to Aphrodite. So you'll actually see a lot of paintings and artwork with Aphrodite that actually has bunnies in them, and that's all because bunnies are extremely fertile, especially at this time of year. And of course, that is why you see Easter celebrations with bunny motifs as well as eggs. It's all about that fertility and that rebirth. So another goddess that is associated with this time of year is Idun, who is a Norse goddess, and she is associated with these apples of immortality. So the other gods in the Norse pantheon would come to her and eat these apples, and that is what allowed them to stay immortal. So because she is this goddess of these immortal apples, again, that has that connotation of renewal at this time of year. There are many different ways you can celebrate Ostara. Anything that kind of brings spring into your home is a great way to celebrate, because this time of year is all about freshness. You can bring in some fresh flowers into your home or decorate your altar with some flowers, or even a potted plant. And on the same note, you can also take some seeds and do some planting, some gardening at this time of year if your climate is appropriate. And another thing you can of course do is dye some eggs, and that's a popular tradition among people who celebrate Easter. But of course, the concept of eggs being tied to birth and kind of fertility definitely makes sense to do that at Ostara. Another thing you can do is plan a feast or a particular dinner and cook with some of the seasonal vegetables. And some vegetables that are in season at this time of year are carrots and asparagus and cucumbers and radishes. There are plenty of good vegetables and fruits you can use that are in season at this time. And another great thing you can do is just do some spring cleaning. And that's something a lot of secular people do too. Just bringing the sense of freshness and renewal into this time of year. So I really hope you enjoyed this video today. And Ostara to me is such an interesting holiday, and it does have so many kind of different origins and different goddesses and the history behind certain gods and goddesses that are celebrated at this time. So do keep in mind that there is going to be a wide amount of variation on which deities were celebrated by the pagans and which specific customs were incorporated into festivals that occurred at this time of year at the vernal equinox. So thank you all so much for watching this video, and I want to hear from you guys if you are planning anything for Ostara this year. Definitely comment down below what you'll be doing this year. And also, if you have not checked out my podcast yet, do definitely check that out. I will put some links down below, and the podcast goes over a lot of tarot stuff as well as a lot of kind of general occult or spiritual topics, and we also do a weekly tarot and astrology forecast. So definitely check out the Cosmic Keys podcast if you haven't yet, and I will see you all next week. Bye.